अध्यक्ष महाराज श्री नामवर सिंह जी, हमारे प्यारे प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी, साहू अखिलेश जैन और त्रिचला जैन, श्री लीलाधर मंडलोई जो निदेशक हैं ज्ञानपीठ के, and other respected members of the Jnanpith Trust, and also the members of the selection committee, some of them may be here, and all of you, my dear friends who have honored me by your august presence here in this hall. आप सबको मेरा प्रणाम। I will speak for about 8 minutes or 10 minutes, briefly pointing out what thoughts have emerged in my mind now. As I am being honored by the Golden Jubilee Jnanpith Award, I simply do not know how to face this unprecedented recognition. And I gropingly reach for a quotation. And as usual, Ghalib comes to my risk, as I remember him, Aina dekh, apna sa muh leke rah gaye. That is the thought that came into my mind. I have been actively associated with several national institutions, but I should admit that we have not been able to build many such institutions of the caliber of Jnanpith. Building national standard has been one of our priorities after independence. And to receive the generosity of such an institution and to deserve it is a unique feeling of apprehension I get at this moment. And as a personal token of gratitude, I promise to Chairman Sri Namwarji and Pradhan Mantri ji and to all of you, I promise that I shall always abide by my commitment to record our times accurately, to write what is right. Writing binds me to my readers and in turn to humanity, to the time and the place, which I interpret as tradition. And as I am born and bred in a village on the borders of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, I don't belong to one particular monoculture or anything. That kind of thing I developed since childhood. And I am deeply rooted in the enormous Indian tradition. The village in which I was born was deprived of any progress. There were no roads. It was in the mountains, Satpura, and there was no progress. And after many years of education and research and teaching and learning, I have discovered that progress is not a feature of civilization. It is just a form. And without that form, you can still be civilized. With its extreme complexities, the Indian tradition has innumerable dialects. In my village alone, I had about 7 dialects, different dialects, and people understood each other very well. Languages, we have about 5 languages in my own village. Sects, religions, castes, cultures, the only one of the kind and size in the history of human civilization. Ours is the oldest living literary tradition, from the Panchatantra stories found in the Harappan excavations to the present-day classics. This is a continuous tradition, incomparable anywhere in human history. And I'm very proud of this. And of all the great traditions, literary traditions in the world, namely the Western tradition, the Middle Eastern tradition, or North African, we may say, and the Eastern tradition, I think the oldest and the living and the richest is our own. This I am not saying out of exaggeration and false pride, but by by a very clear record of continuous production of classics and performance of all arts related to literature. The folk songs, this is the reflection I get from my own village. The folk song, the folk tales, the folk drama, the ancient epics, all illiterate people have been nurturing these arts, which everyone knew in my village. The epics, the medieval religions, and the Aryan, pre-Aryan, Munda, ostrich, and primitive gods and goddesses, all of them worshipped and respected in my small village. And although I am an atheist, I greatly respect this theist tradition because it connects you to the whole antiquity. The great saint poets like Tukaram and Kabir and the Ajanta caves, which were just 25 kilometers from my village, which we used to visit really, I haven't seen parallels of this anywhere. You know, this is again, I'm not speaking out of false pride, but these are our picture galleries. And somehow these have kept all our traditions of arts alive. When I later learned, taught, researched, and read a lot about world literature, all that was within my small village has given me the sense of the tradition which is unparalleled. And not only that, it was a revelation to me that the two great Indian arts which were practiced in my village, namely the Indian music and Indian dance and music, have been the greatest arts untouched by any foreign influence, and that is why they are great. While the arts which have been spoiled and degraded by foreign influences are literature and painting. They are the most degraded ones because of constant borrowing and degradation of the first kind. So these influences have, particularly during the colonial period, resonated us from our tradition. I respect the Indian tradition because it has been constantly borrowing and reforming itself. It has been forever changing. There is no period in history, I have discovered myself, where the Indian tradition has not changed. Even today it is changing. Within 50 years, in my own family, the parents who were illiterate, my grandchildren are computer handling people. This is the change which every generation has been experiencing in India, and we should be proud of this. And we are also expert in adapting, in revolutionizing ourselves, and also we change all the time. This is perhaps the greatest boons of the Indian culture, and what is more important is the more we change, the more we remain the same. This has been the magic of Indian culture. Now, these values have inspired me to become a writer, and I think the credit of whatever I am belongs to these sources. Although I don't deny that I am also indebted to many influences and many foreign influences also, but the sources I believe are more important than influences. Now, I don't consider therefore myself more intelligent than my ancestors, because obviously the ancestors are more in number and they are more intelligent than you, and therefore I have no courage to criticize and even to object to what they have done. I believe that the ancestors, which is the case with everyone, were obviously more intelligent and have thought about all our problems for thousands of years. I should be tolerant of its deadwood because of the unparalleled antiquity that we are given by our destiny. I do not mean to say blindly that tradition is always faultless. All I want to distinguish is the thin line between shreyas and preyas, what is desirable and what is beneficial. If we draw that thin line, I think we will be successful. Now, I would fully agree how much desi is too much deshi. Because there is always a borderline, you go on stretching deshiness and become a fundamentalist. That is also possible. So how much of this is to be stretched, this will depend upon the consciousness of the society. And I think in the Indian tradition, there is no scope for stretching it to fundamentalism, because there are always checks and balances at every stage. This could be experiences from the revolutions that have been made in all arts, in all literature, and in the social realities, right up to Phule and Ambedkar, who have been experiencing that. There has not been a great writer who is not Deshi anywhere in the world, I have seen. Only we have taken that particular prejudice that to be Deshi is to be narrow or to be provincial, and we have therefore raised values which are against Deshiness. This Deshiness is essential prerequisite for any writer worth the name, whether Shakespeare or Premchand. Only Shakespeare could become universal and international because he had an empire behind him. Premchand had no empire behind him. That is the only difference. So otherwise, both of them are Deshi. I don't find universal literary systems operative in world literature at any epoch. There are only Deshi systems active everywhere in the world. Universalism is a mesh put over the third world society by the developed nations. Universals are ideologically charged and reflect culturally determined perspectives. They are the product of generalization with no assurance to recognize pluralism and exceptions, diversities and variations. And there would be no Indian culture without pluralism, exceptions, diversities and variations. So globalization is the greatest enemy of plural and diversified countries. It is a strategy, that is, universalism is a strategy to make the best the enemy of the good. That is what has been happening in India for the last 200 years. The good has always been shy because it is the enemy of the best that is made by universals. After Gertrude Stein, who said this to Bertrand Russell, using that quotation, I would say, it can be said that what is true of a small island country like England may not be true of the enormous country like India. And these are two separate entities. Finally, I would like to end by summing up what I have to carry forward, that the evolutions of different lifestyles which India has very brilliantly been known for, the cooking style, the dressing styles, the apparel styles, the types of families, matriarchal and patriarchal types, all these are unbound in India. And this is supposed to be the evolution influenced by the geographical conditions, the environmental conditions of this subcontinent. There is a stretch of environmental conditions and we don't have one type of condition, and therefore we have to praise different lifestyles and accept different lifestyles of all kinds. Also, I would like to point out here that the last 2 centuries, that is not much period in the history of India, but the last 2 centuries we have developed a kind of sense of acculturation, whereas we believe that good things are possible only when they are acculturated, only when the seed comes from outside. The soil remains, but the seed has to come from outside. That is the meaning of acculturation sociologically. Unfortunately, this has taken away all the creativity from our art, especially literature. And we have therefore we have been locating non-creative activities everywhere. This has to be located, identified, and I'm sure it requires racial intelligence. I believe in the Hindus have that intelligence, and in the subcontinent, this intelligence will win over, and this acculturation will stop, and we will have a reverse acculturation. Whatever has been done, as our neighbors say, after all, we are slaves, and ultimately the slave culture dominates even today. The way I am speaking in English is a sign of being slave. But that is supposed to be the condition of a slave, a necessary condition of a slave. The next generation has to be more intelligent than this generation, using a foreign language, the foreign techniques, the foreign literary forms, and revert to our own forms. And this will require reverse acculturation. How that is to be done is obviously a matter of conjecture, and it will be decided by the more intelligent generation that is coming up in the next few days. That is my hope. Finally, I would like to end my speech by expressing my gratitude to Jnanpith Trust, because they have connected me to very great writers of the past, of which really I am very proud, and I may not be of that particular standard, but I will try to reach to that standard. And I also very grateful to our dear Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who has been present here to offer me the award, and to all of you who have been patiently listening to my monologue. Thank you. I'm sorry for today.